gender-based violence again, because you find that, as Lawrence has just alluded to, the highest population which we have is the youthful population, and we really need to work hard to harness this demographic dividend.
It's quite pertinent that you mentioned the issue of gender-based violence as well, and we acknowledge maybe the effort that is being made in as far as addressing maybe the legislative provisions, to cover these gaps. But the issue of drug and substance abuse is also quite critical. Helen, maybe if I can come to you, I know you do have this passion when it comes to sexual and reproductive health. Lawrence did allude to that. Maybe if you have something to add in terms of the challenges that the Zimbabwean youth is facing right now.
Yeah, in addition to what Lawrence said about escalating poverty amongst our children and adolescents, and also the issue of climate change and disasters, I think when you also come to sexual reproductive health, as a person coming from an organization representing children and girls, there's the issue of gender-based discrimination. There are social norms and gender norms which are barring girls from accessing sexual and reproductive health services because of our social norms in terms of age. Social norms around age. Young people are not seen as sexual being, but sexuality starts from birth until death. So it's cutting across all ages when you come to the issues of ageism, and our theme for intergenerational solidarity, and also harnessing dialogue amongst all ages. It means if young people are restricted from accessing services because of their ages, it seems the challenges like teenage pregnancies are escalating in Zimbabwe. We've got adolescent pregnancies, which are high in Zimbabwe. For every 1,000 girls in Zimbabwe, 108 of them have fallen pregnant, according to the recent studies on multiple indicator survey. So if you take 1,000 girls and put them there, you would take 108 of them have fallen pregnant. Those who are between the ages of 15 to 19. So that's a very big challenge for Zimbabwe. And when it comes to sexual gender-based violence, which is escalated by gender discrimination, we are seeing that for every 3 girls, 1 girl has been violated her rights in terms of gender. So social norms around gender is also a very major problem, leading to what Memory just said about child marriages. It's around issues to do with gender norms. So those are some of the challenges which are being faced by young people in Zimbabwe, I can say, especially for the girls. And they also need to support girls because they are dropping out of school, because when they fall pregnant, there are no supporting mechanisms to ensure that girls are kept in school besides them getting married, besides them falling pregnant. So it's very important for girls to be in school. So even when you also come to our the environment, our social environment, I've already talked about the social, but in terms of policies and also in terms of our laws, we still need to be harmonizing our laws in terms of age restrictions to access economic assets, to access health services. So there's need to harmonize our laws and also our constitution so that we do not have any restrictions based on age, so that all ages they are gain from the economic
they have
environment.
equal opportunity.
They have economic,
Quite critical that you raise the issue of sexual and reproductive health. I think the chairperson of the health board, the parliamentary portfolio on health, rather, is on record, raising concern about the numbers of teenage pregnancies and children that had to fall out of school. I think this was early last year. The numbers were quite shocking. Maybe if I can come to you, Blessing, the issue, you work with adolescents and youths a lot. What are the issues that come to the fore, when we talk of these challenges?
All right, thanks so much, Blessing. I think my colleagues here, they've almost exhausted or the list in terms of the challenges that adolescents and young people are facing. But you realize that one of the most critical amongst these that have been mentioned as well is the issue of participation. I think young people themselves, they do not feel engaged that much, especially in spaces where they have to make decisions around issues that affect them. So we find that where there are opportunities for young people's issues being discussed around their health, their education, their well-being, it's critical that we create spaces for young people to participate. So it's not only discussion for us, but in terms of opportunities as well. Young people, they should participate. In leadership as well, young people, they should participate. Because you realize that some of the challenges that we are discussing today, they are better addressed if we have got young people sitting on the table, participating even in policy discussions, in implementation and monitoring of those policies is quite critical for the participation.
What are some of the initiatives that we've currently introduced to try and stimulate, this participation of the youths into their own, problem solving?
What we've been doing as UNFPA, we've been supporting interventions that are around co-creating programs with young people. We engage, we do some national consultations with young people. We gather various pockets of young people, ensuring that no one is left behind. All the different dynamics within young people, they are focused on when mobilizing these young people. They participate and we get some information or some data, some issues that are coming from them. And based on that feedback, we also sort of co-create programs with them. It's better address the challenges that they are facing. When you sit at the table with them, you discuss the issues that they are facing, and they also proffer some of the solutions of what they think will be the best to address those challenges. So we've been creating spaces in terms of consulting with these young people, even in the involvement in the program itself. When doing some surveys, when doing some monitoring, we've also made sure that young people, they are also on board, so that they articulate the issues themselves, and we assist in them in addressing some of those issues that they are facing. But I think for also adding to some of the issues that the colleagues have mentioned there, I think the issue of teenage pregnancy that has been highlighted I think it's one of the key issues that I just thought that maybe we may also need to really emphasize, because it's a glaring issue and is unfortunately affecting especially the girl child. You realize that when we are supporting a girl child to realize her full potential, but she is now sort of fallen victim for a number of reasons and ending up pregnant, her future is affected, her full potential is affected, and it comes in with other issues around even STI and HIV infections. It also comes with issues around school dropouts. You realize that according to the Zimbabwe Vulnerability Assessment Committee survey that was done, when the survey was done, around 23% of school-going age girls were out of school, and about 19% of those had not reported back to school because of pregnancy. So that's a significant number when it comes to affecting the future of young girls. So we definitely need to sort of work together as the UN. We remain available, working with development partners, CSOs, in complementing government efforts to ensure that some of these challenges that we are discussing here, they are better addressed, and we support young people to really fulfill and reach their full potential.
All right, very well said there, Blessing. I think the issue of involving the youths also helps in buy-in, doesn't it? When they are involved in coming up with the solutions, it's easier also for them to take them up and also implement them. This is the discussion. We're looking at the International Youth Day commemorations. It's a panel discussion proudly brought to you by UNFPA alongside its partners, and also, of course, ZTN Prime. And we are running with the theme for this year, which is Intergenerational Solidarity, creating a world for all ages. Remember, you can interact with us on our social media platforms. On Facebook, it's Zim Papers TV Network. On Twitter, it's at ZTM Prime. Give us your feedback, give us your questions, and we will be glad to forward them to our panelists. We take a short breather. We'll be right back after these messages.
The Drumbeat. Awakening the world. Ululation of the soul. celebrating in rhythmic dance. The birth of an African star, a star that shall bring nations, cultures, generations together, bringing you closer to home. Home of more music, more drama, more glitz, more rave, more sport, more everything. Behold, a new star.
All right, welcome back. This is the International Youth Day commemorations. It's the panel discussion proudly brought to you by ZTN Prime, UNFPA, in partnership with the British government, the Irish government, USAID, the European Union, the Chinese and Japanese government, as well as the World Bank. My name is Blessing Manatsi, and today we're looking at aspects around the challenges that the youths are facing. And we did hear some of them being highlighted there. But Lawrence, maybe if I can come to you, the needs and the challenges of the youths. Do you feel that the youths are being understood in as far as what are their needs?
Thank you, Blessing. I would not really be
There's no yes
absolute.
or no answer.
Yes, exactly. Instead of yes or no. But there are measures that have been taken to ensure that these issues are addressed. I mean, there is evidence of what has been happening in terms of the issues. For example, I think for us, the international cooperating partners, what we've done, we've tried to have youth sounding boards in every interventions that we do. Be it we are formulating, designing a certain program, we have a youth sounding board that is represented. M&E, monitoring and evaluation of our programs. The idea is to go beyond youth involvement on a tokenism basis. It's meaningful engagement and involvement of the youth themselves. The youth, they have said, nothing for us without us. And we've seen with the COVID, some youths have actually said there's no wealth without health. The importance of health as a mechanism. So various governments, including Zimbabwe, I think policies have been enacted. There are various platforms, I mean, where the youths get involved, not for the future, but for the current, because they are already determining what is happening right now. So I can say, I mean, it's a mixed bag in terms of their involvement and. Yeah. Thank you.
Helen, you work with the youths in your day-to-day, activities. Do they feel like we are understanding them? Because if there is that gap, then they may go distant.
Yes, we are making progress, ensuring that we are not yet there, but we are working towards getting there. Through involvement,
like it's a process.
It's a process. So mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that young people are involved. Like we have got the National Adolescent Coordination Forum, where youth also participate in decision-making related to sexual and reproductive health. And we also have got the Junior Council, where there's junior participation of young people, ensuring that health issues are also channeled through them, and also they go to the the major parliament. So I think we are going there through the different and also the different consultations being made by CSOs and also by the government. So we are going even through promoting education. That's one of the major way of ensuring that youth's concerns are heard through creating agents, because before they are heard, they should also know what they should be heard for. So the first thing is to create agents within the young people, and one of the ways of creating agents is supporting them to learn through inclusive quality education. What like we are doing, partners are supporting the government through the education. We've got youth-led organizations. We have got seen the a lot of young people's organizations also being established. So that's a evidence that people, young people have been heard, and they also they are now able to lead and also be forming their own organizations
and be involved in the whole effort.
In
All right, Memory, let me come to you. We just need to look at the effort that the partners are making, you know, in as far as addressing these challenges is concerned. And of course, government is playing its part. What are some of the activities or action, what is the action and commitment that is coming from government when it comes to addressing some of these challenges that we've highlighted?
Okay, thank you very much, Blessing. On the government side, I want to congratulate the Second Republic, being led by His Excellency Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, for making strides, especially in leveraging on the full potential of young people. You'll find that to date, Zimbabwe, we've managed to hold, like what Helen was saying, the 30th session of the National Junior Parliament, where we, Zimbabwe, it was celebrated on Day of the African Child, where Zimbabwe was discriminating harmful practices. And then we had an assessment on progress and policy. And as Zimbabwe, we find that we take the lead. We even chaired the African Union Children's Parliament, which is a junior parliament, a mirror image of the senior parliament at the African Union in Zambia. That's a regional platform. So starting from local level, then national, regional, and then international. So as Zimbabwe, we've made strides. And also looking at the other side, we have the Zimbabwe Youth Council, which is a parastatal enacted by the Act of Parliament, Chapter 2519 of 1997, which is in pursuit of youth empowerment and participation. Well, that's why we are sitting here. And my only worry, I was laughing with Blessing that you're the only young person here on this platform, of which...
What about me?
Okay, the other Blessing, fine, but
I get
from
your
me,
point.
where I'm coming from, I want more youth voices. So the youth voices should be amplified.
True.
Yes. So that even when we are looking back from the recent preliminary results from the census, you find that there was this saying that we have the bulk of the youth population. In Zimbabwe, it's a youthful population. So in order for us to bridge the gap, the intergenerational gap, we really need to harness the youth demographic dividend, as I've said earlier on. And we find that we have a board, Zimbabwe Youth Council board, and we have a chairperson. Oh, of course, you can say Memory is a feminist, but I'm proud that the chairperson is a lady. And also we have a minister of youth. She's very youthful. She's a lad. So we have those strides. And you find that we have, like today, when we are commemorating the International Youth Day, we have various build-up activities. And we have the Junior Minister of Youth, who is also a lady. So what we're trying to say here, we are saying, if we come together, we collaborate, the development partners, they complement government efforts, and they need to really work hand in glove, like what we are doing with UNFPA. You find that some partners, they'll be looking at doing their own way, but we are saying, let's try to address the Zimbabwean issue, where we have the National Development Strategy, NDS1, and we are focusing towards Vision 2030. So we really need to work as a family, and also we channel the resources to the young people. They have a huge demographic dividend there. So we need to channel and also give them their chance, and more spaces should be created. You find that we have youth associations within the Zimbabwe Youth Council. Those are youth voices, but we want them to be heard. And also because they are now being included in the boards, decision-making boards, powerful boards. I can give just one example. It's just a teether, but we have like Commissioner Jasper Mangwana. He's very youthful, and he's one of the commissioners for the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission.
He's the spokesperson.
Spokesperson, indeed. So you find that that's what we want, so that more youth voices are heard, and we have more platforms where we are saying even the youth, they are able to make decisions at the highest level. And you find that even the Zimbabwean government, we have a quota system, but we are really appreciating. But coming from the youth side also, I'm saying we really have a bulk of the population. So the youth should be more visible, and we really need to learn from our elders. Thank you. Blessing.
All right, thank you, Memory. Maybe let me come to you, Blessing. The efforts, that your organization is making in as far as addressing the vast challenges, that we have. We've mentioned quite a number of them here. What are some of the initiatives? I know you've already prompted on some of them during your previous contribution.
All right, thanks so much, Blessing. I think as UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, we have a number of strategies, approaches, programs that we are supporting as we complement the government efforts, and also as we work with development partners, like we've got Switzerland here represented, and even as we support even some of our implementing partners, we've got Plan International here present. So you realize that for us to have that support, holistic support to young people, we also have to start from supporting and having an enabling environment in place, and that means also supporting efforts around policy. So as UNFPA, we've been supporting efforts to have good policies in place and to ensure that those policies, they are implemented. We've got Madame Memory here from the ZYC and the Ministry of Youth. As UNFPA, we've worked hand in glove with them as they are working on the National Youth Policy. And these are policies that will ensure that the key issues, earlier on we were probing around whether young people are ahead. When you have got policies that are in place, they are formulated based on consultations with young people. And based on that policy, now we know how to best support the areas of need in terms of young people. So as UNFPA, that's one area that we've also been supporting. And we've been working with other ministries that are not here present, like the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, in ensuring that, earlier when you're talking about issues around teenage pregnancy, school dropouts, gender-based violence, within the school environment, learners, they are also disproportionately affected by these issues. So we've been working with the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education to ensure that we support age-appropriate, quality, comprehensive sexuality education, just to make sure that the young people themselves, they've got knowledge, and with that knowledge, they will exercise bodily autonomy, they will take charge of their bodies, and they will know what to do in terms of protecting themselves. We've also been working in tertiary institutions to ensure that there's improved access to integrated services that are needed by young people. Young people, especially the youth that we are gathered here, when they grow up, they have got some experiences and they need services that will complement or that will support those services that they want. And earlier on, Louis was mentioning the issue around young people failing to access services in health facilities because of various reasons, some that may be around attitudes of service providers. As UNFPA, we have also been supporting provision of youth-friendly services, youth-friendly services, whereby we've been working with the Ministry of Health to build the capacity of health service providers, so that when young people come seeking services, they receive information and other services that they want in a friendly environment, and they do not feel pushed away. Then earlier on, again, we're talking about the issue around economic opportunities, economic empowerment. I think that's one of the critical areas whereby if you look at like the 2021 fourth quarter labor survey, it mentioned that around 49% of young people, they were not in education, not in employment, and not training. And if you look at the same, it's articulating, I think, around 56% of young people not in employment. So realize that as the United Nations Population Fund, we've also been working to ensure that young people, they are economically empowered. So we've got some vocational skills building that are happening. We've got a model site in Hopley, and we are looking within our new country program to expand those economic opportunities, because we are talking of health, we are talking of education, but economic empowerment becomes a very key enabling factor, because without the means to earn a living, without the means to pay fees, without the means to access services. Young people, they find themselves in a very complicated situation. Mental health and drug and substance use is another key issue that is emerging, and it is affecting all these other issues. So you find that when a young person, we're talking of maybe economic empowerment, when they do coming from a household that is poor, they can't go to school, they can't proceed with their lives. So you find that in some instances they resort to drug and substance use. Their mental health is under pressure. So these are some of the other software issues that we are also addressing as UNFPA. All these aimed at ensuring that these young people, they reach their full potential. So there are a number of support that we are working with various line ministries, complementing government efforts to ensure that the challenges that young people are facing are really addressed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's quite encouraging from your contribution to note that some of these programs that we're talking about are actually derived from facts of research, research-based solutions that actually talk to what is actually happening on the ground. Maybe if I can come to you, Helen, in as far as some of these research is concerned, how have you been involved in as far as addressing the challenges are concerned, and also your participation in as far as research is concerned? As
far as research is concerned, in terms of sexual and reproductive health, we are currently having a national study on the adolescent fertility, like looking at the causes of teenage pregnancies, adolescent pregnancies in Zimbabwe. It's a national study. Who are making these adolescents pregnant? Where are they? Which part of the population, like which parts of the country are most affected? So we are currently working with partners like the government, the Ministry of Public Services. We are also working with the Ministry of Health. We are working with academias, the universities, and also the UN agents who are coordinating the study, and us, the CSOs, to ensure that we generate evidence, so that going forward we can use the evidence to address the real challenges which are being faced by children and young women in Zimbabwe. So we have a research, and in 2016 there was a national study on national adolescent fertility study, which was also looking at the issues of why girls are getting pregnant. And you'll be surprised that sometimes girls, there are some girls who really want to be pregnant even if they are still young. It doesn't necessarily mean even if that it's always that they do not want. We have a certain section of girls who would want to get pregnant because they have no other reasons why they should not get pregnant. Maybe they don't even they don't have any other reasons. They have nothing else to do. So that's why it's important to give these girls opportunities so that they can have a reason to postpone sex and postpone they don't get idle. So there are a lot of reasons why girls are getting pregnant for the national adolescent, like you've got issues of social norms, issues of religious beliefs. There's also the issue of poverty. There's also the issue of access. It's one of the things which are coming from this, that like they do not have access to sexual and reproductive health services. And you can see that though girls and young people are sexual active, they are not accessing contraceptives. I'm saying access to contraceptives for those girls and young women who are sexual active. So if someone is sexual active, it means he's bound to get pregnant. So that person should have access to sexual and reproductive health, like contraceptives. So they do not have knowledge. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions around the use of contraceptives, because they are saying if you use the contraceptives before you have a first child, you won't. So we need to have more research, especially knowledge and perceptions around use of contraceptives. So we need to have more researches around our knowledge and perceptions around, and also perceptions of parents and issues around consenting, who should consent to the use of contraception, the parent or the girl child. So we still need to have more researches
Sometimes
besides
the parents are not agreeing as well. The father is saying yes, the mother is saying no.
Yeah.
Or
So
vice versa.
yeah. So we still need to generate more evidence in terms of researches, especially around the issues of this access to sexual reproductive health by people with disabilities. We do not have much information on that. What are the issues? So we still need to generate more evidence so that going forward we address the challenges being faced by young people.
All right, Lawrence, maybe looking at the development partners and their efforts, in addressing these challenges. We've got so many people that are working towards maybe the common goals that we want to achieve in as far as the youths are concerned. But how difficult is it for, all these partners to integrate and come up with an effort in unison that is actually makes us more effective as development partners?
Thank you, Blessing. It's not very difficult for different partners when there's a meeting of the minds. It's not contestable that the demography, the youths, the highest number of population in the countries that you operate. It's not really a tall order to understand that you have to provide these youths with opportunities for them to contribute to meaningful development. Otherwise, if they are idle, like what Helen has mentioned as well, they may disrupt development. Everyone, it's in the best interest of everyone, us development partners, the host governments, the CSOs, the private partners that we are working with. And we've been collaborating at various platforms. Like, for example, I want to flag out the East and Southern Africa Ministerial Commitment on Health and Education, which has been ratified by several countries within SADC. And one of the programs that we are supporting in Switzerland, which is implemented by UNFPA, the Safeguard Young People program in 2020 was acknowledged as the sole program operationalizing that commitment. This is at ministerial level, where you see ministers from various countries coming together to agree to create a good world for young people. That's one of the levels that we've done. And we've worked as well at national level, where there are various policies that translate from the regional policies to national policies. And then experiences at lower level, where you actually translate policies into meaningful interventions. I think Blessing was talking also about the youth-friendly health services, in order to address, to encourage those who need services to go to a center where they are not judged, and then they get the service, and then their health is protected. For the wealth, you remember I said, some youths have said there's no wealth without health. We've done it at various levels. So I see a meeting of the minds. Right now at Zimbabwe, we work with various ministries, the Ministry of Youth, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. We do exchange at various levels. So there is a meeting of the minds that we really need to do something meaningful. And what you have mentioned, the topic of the day, intergenerational solidarity as well. We know it's the elderly or the grown-up people have got also something to bring to the table. So as much as we acknowledge that, then it becomes helpful to have that discussion.
I think, Blessing, if I can come to you, the point that Lawrence makes there is quite critical. Intergenerational, integration is quite critical. As well, Memory did highlight that we need more, youth voices in what we do. How then can we take advantage of the democratic dividend, that she mentioned, as we involve the youth in our efforts?
Yeah, I think I was fascinated to hear Memory mentioning about the demographic dividend, and also pushing for more space for youth, especially in participation in leadership positions. I think that's quite critical. And in terms of harnessing the demographic dividend, I think we all appreciate that over 2/3 of the population of Zimbabwe, we are talking about youth. So you find that investments in those youth is inevitable. We definitely have to ensure that the government, the development partners, as is the UN and the CSOs, we are all working together to ensure that we are increasing investments in these young people. We are talking about their health, we are talking about their education, we are talking about their well-being in general. So that's quite critical, because you know the ones today we are talking about intergenerational solidarity. If we invest in young people themselves, they will come and lead to the productive development of Zimbabwe. We're talking of Agenda 2030, Vision 2030. We've got the National Development Strategy 1. Those wheels, they need to be turned around, and young people, they are very critical in ensuring that production. So we definitely have to make sure that we harness the demographic dividend, we make meaningful investments in young people. And I think one of the discussion points that we are also having, that Lawrence also previously alluded to, we need to coordinate our efforts in a more systematic way, because you find that Memor also highlighted that, you know, there are various partners who are doing their own things in their own spaces, the CSOs, be it CSOs, whatever other organization it may be. But if only we can come together, the UN, the CSOs, development partners, and ensure that we are targeting this specific development agenda for youth, and we make meaningful contributions toward that, I think that will definitely take us to some stage, coordinating our efforts and addressing these issues in a more holistic and more systematic manner. I think that would be the best way to go. Yeah.
Memory, when it comes to, you know, implementation, we've got plans that are in place, we've got legislative provisions, we've got blueprints that we have in place. Talking about one factor that could be an impediment, or usually is an impediment across all spheres, the issue of funding. As government, are we doing enough in as far as allocating, you know, funds for the youths to be active, like you say, and be involved in activities, as well as, you know, the provisions that we make for the youth itself to be, as a ministry, to be effective in its rollout?
Okay, thank you very much, Blessing. Personally, as I have alluded earlier on, I think this time around, from being a youth also, I started youth work long. I'm really appreciating we are getting somewhere. Change is a process. So when we invest in youth, when we invest in young people, we are investing in potential. But this time around, we are getting somewhere, where we are saying we are also receiving the supplementary budget for the youth, which is, we should give the government a round of applause. That we are also decentralizing. We're in the process of decentralizing. In line with devolution, we find that the Zimbabwe Youth Council is decentralizing to all the provinces, the 10 provinces in Zimbabwe. To me, that's a milestone. But however, I'm also calling upon, especially the UN family, UNFPA. They've partnered with the government. They've complemented government efforts for long, like through the Young People's Network on HIV and AIDS. We really need to strengthen that institution so that we are able to accomplish and achieve what we really want as government. So if we strengthen that, the Young People's Network, through the National AIDS Council, through the Zimbabwe Youth Council, by end of day, we'll be able to make a self-examination of where we are coming from and where we are heading to. Furthermore, I would like to add that we also have the youth focal desks, which have been established throughout the ministries. Some of the youth focal desks are very vibrant. I can give an example of the agriculture youth focal desk. So you find that the youth who are into agriculture, they are really doing well. And in terms of economic empowerment, I'm also calling the Lawrence to also support, because you find that the agriculture is also a pillar for our achievement as Zimbabwe, so that we attain National Development Strategy 1. So we are also saying the youth who are into agriculture, they can also do more. And we have the Education 5.0, which is now into play, where we are saying we have young innovators. You can support those young engineers. They can still do more.
Okay, thank you so much. Lawrence, I think maybe it's still on the issue of funding, you know, maybe as a barrier. Maybe without giving actual statistics, looking at the progression over the years, you know, the funding towards the youths and their development. Are we seeing any movement that is actually in keeping with the targets that we have maybe for Agenda 2030? I know there are quite a number of spheres. There's education, there's also issues of drugs that are coming up, there's the issue of agriculture that Memory is actually alluding to. In as far as funding, can we be excited about the future?
Thank you, Blessing. In terms of funding, it's always never enough. But as you have said, in terms of the trajectory, looking where we came from, I think there is positive sort of developments. I mean, reflecting on my the Swiss embassy, in the previous strategies, I mean, we used to target other groups, but the last one and the current one, the next one, which will be 2023 to 2026, there's a deliberate focus as well to target the youths, boys and girls. And when you talk about the youths, it's very important to see that they are nuanced. They're not a homogeneous group. I mean, there are urban youths, the rural youths. There are those who are close to 14, 15. They're different too, depending on the age limit. Some are 34, 35. They're still youths, but the needs are really different. So in terms of funding, I think there has been good progress. And according to the SDG's reflections as well, we realize that no amount of, development partners, money or the governments themselves could have that sufficient, and we need to engage the private sector. So there are now innovative models where the private sector involvement in addressing development issues is happening. There are instances that we have done where we see, for example, the private sector is involved in training the youth in terms of key market-based skills that are appropriate, absorbing them, teaching them in entrepreneurship. So the key thing is to involve even the private sector so that we have much more that is needed. Thank you.
Helen, I'm coming to you now. Lawrence is making, reference to the issue of different, ages. When it comes to our response efforts and our strategies, how crucial is it, to actually, or what challenges are presented by, the different and various needs that come with the different age-specific needs of the youths, so to speak?
Maybe coming to what has been recently been discussed about funding, in terms of age, there are restrictions. In terms of flexibility, where in terms of age, young people sometimes are not able to access funding because they are restricted in terms of their age. And when you also come to, sometimes they do not even have the records, the relevant documents for them to be accessing the funding. You are supposed to be having a birth certificate. Sometimes even you don't have the birth certificate. We don't even have the national IDs. And they are accessing funding maybe for organizations, maybe from the development partners. You need to be registered. So the procedures of registering, whether you need the PVO number, you need the registration. So sometimes young people, they find it difficult to access some of the funding, especially from our development, but because there are bottlenecks in terms of the requirements which are needed. Sometimes you also need the board for the if you are a youth-led organization, it needs to be registered and there's a board and the like. So it will also, the formalities, those formalities will also limit our young people, depending on where they are coming from. In the urban areas, it might be easier. You will see that most of the organizations which are being formed by young people, mostly maybe they are urban-based. But if you go down there in Mzarabani, you might not see a youth-led organization there. So we still need to do more in terms of ensuring that funding is reaching out to the most need adolescents and young people. And in terms of age, for Zimbabwe, we also only those maybe who are above 18 will also access that. But sometimes at the age of 16, you've already completed your education. You need something to be doing. So sometimes age can be restricting you. So we need to come up with mechanisms to ensuring that funding is accessible by the young people. So in terms of other, when we also come to sexual reproductive health, in Zimbabwe, age, as I've already alluded, also becomes a restriction to accessing services. Besides, you need to be accompanied sometimes by your parent if you are if you are not yet at the age of 18, according to this recent constitutional ruling, maybe to access HIV testing services and also to access some of the services. So age also will become a restriction. And sometimes young people are also asked to be paying for the services. Even if they want to go alone, they do not have the fees. So sometimes the payment for the sexual reproductive also becomes a barrier. After being diagnosed an STI, you need to purchase STI treatment drugs. They need money. So if you do not have money, then your age and your non-affordability of the required funds will also restrict you from accessing the services. Then the burden on the health outcomes will continue for Zimbabwe. And if we don't have a healthy young people, it means we won't be able to have the intergenerational solidarity. So we're coming back to our discussion for the day, the intergenerational solidarity. We need the older generation to be supporting the young people, supporting them to access the service in terms of the funding. We need them to support them to go to school, so that it's the older generation which are economically stable. We can support the younger generation. If you have said we have the youthful population in Zimbabwe, so that youthful population needs to be supported by the adult population, so that we promote our opportunities for Zimbabwe.
Many thanks for that contribution, Helen. The issue of the effort that we're making for the youths. Do we need to adjust our effort and make it more flexible for them? How do we strike a balance with accountability, also cultural norms, and many other social factors that come at play? This, of course, is the International Youth Day panel discussion, proudly brought to you by ZTN Prime, UNFPA, in conjunction with its partners, the British government, the Irish government, the Swiss government, the Japanese and Chinese government, the European Union, the World Bank, and USAID. We explore the intergenerational solidarity opportunities up next. Don't go away.
It's here. Watch your fantasies unravel. From adrenaline pumping motoring to the glitz and glam of top celebrities.
Are you a fan of polo? Do you understand polo?
This is the place where riveting drama and chart-topping movies form a culture.
I'll shoot you.
Where did your friends come in?
I'm gonna Panama.
Zimbabwe and South Africa once again proved important.
A place to mingle with your sporting heroes.
All the Premier League teams in Zimbabwe have come here.
And allow the kids to unleash their spirit of adventure.
But then I realized it's a Saturday.
That place is not too far. It's here. ZTN Prime, a home for everyone.
Welcome back. It's the International Youth Day panel discussion. It's the celebrations. Today is International Youth Day, a day set aside by the United Nations to celebrate the potential that is presented by the global 1.2 billion population of the global youth population. My name is Blessing, and of course I'm joined in studio by many panelists that are helping us discuss the theme for today, which is building intergenerational solidarity in order to improve health and well-being of young people. That's right here in Zimbabwe. Now, Blessing, maybe what are the intergenerational solidarity opportunities, available to better improve the, world of the youth right here in Zimbabwe?
All right, thank you, Blessing. So you find that we are talking about intergenerational solidarity. We are basically talking about bringing in generations together so that they have those open conversations, those engagements, so that they understand each other and support each other. And today, as we're celebrating the International Youth Day, I think from the challenges that have been discussed here, you realize that there are a myriad of challenges that youth are faced with today. And for us, if we are saying we want to support the young people to reach their full potential, it does not only take the efforts of the young people themselves for them to reach their full potential, but it takes the efforts and the assistance of even the generation ahead of them to come and support the youth. So you find that I think in Zimbabwe there are opportunities, a number of opportunities that we can take advantage of, especially starting from having that enabling environment itself, understanding what is it that the young people want. I'm happy we've got the National Development Strategy, in the National Health Strategy. In themselves, they were consultative in nature. They consulted the young people, and you find that the government laid some of the challenges that young people are facing. And if we take advantage of that, then we can also address some of the challenges that they are facing. So what I'm saying is we have to make sure that there is that engagement of the older generation, I would say, and the younger generation in understanding the issues that are coming from the youth. Then we see how we can best address those. So from policy itself, policy development, implementation and monitoring, we need the older generation to engage with the younger generation. In that way, we are supporting intergenerational solidarity. And remember, the full theme is also talking about creating a world for all. And you find that if we create a good world for the young people, we invest in them, they in turn, they'll play a critical role. They'll be very critical in ensuring that we achieve even implementation of the NDS1 itself. We achieve Vision 2030 because they are the most energetic and they are the most productive as well. So we need to take advantage of them, the demographic dividend. How can we harness, how can we reap the demographic dividend? So I think that's quite critical, that we ensure that we have the younger generation and the older generation coming together in terms of policy. At community level, you also find that as UNFPA are supported by development partners, we have been supporting some interventions, community-based interventions like the parent-to-child communication. We understand that the younger generation has to benefit from the older. So through those dialogues that happen between parents, between guardians, the elderly community members and the youth, young people, they are also taught or they have increased knowledge in terms of how best they can protect themselves. There are still some elements within our culture. There are still some elements within the way we live in Zimbabwe that are of benefit to address some of the challenges that we are talking about. Earlier on, we talked about issues around teenage pregnancy, we talked about HIV/STI infections, school dropouts, gender-based violence. You find that some of these challenges, they are also addressed at community level. So as UNFPA, we are supporting community, the community institution to strengthen its capacity to protect the youth that we are celebrating, that we are commemorating today. So these are some of the opportunities that we definitely have to take advantage of Zimbabwe and capitalize on those so that we create a world for all ages and for the youth that will also in turn create a world for each and every one of us through the energy that they have and that they can contribute towards national development.
Right, memory. They say change is constant. If you want to die, then don't adapt to change that is happening around you. I know you mentioned the issue of Education 5.0. Looking at technology and, tapping into the youths as a source of innovations for the future. Are we tapping into this resource adequately as government?
Yeah, personally, I would say we are really tapping on the potential of the young people, because you find that almost at every tertiary institution we have the innovation hub. And also I understand in September I have a number of young people we are going to exhibit in Maputo, the young innovators. So from my take, we are doing much, but however, we really need to strengthen the full potential of those institutions so that if they have more resources, the young people, they can have more opportunities to be very innovative. And next week, we'll be having a National Youth Expo in Bulawayo to commemorate the International Youth Day, being organized by the Zimbabwe Youth Council. So to me, we'll be having again all those young innovators, and there will be prizes to be won. So as Zimbabwe, we have a success story. Coming back again to the Zimbabwe scenario, you find that as Blessing alluded for earlier on, at community levels, you find that the young people are also now exhibiting at the shows, which was unheard of.
Not even imagine.
Yes, you cannot imagine where you can have a young Maria going in to exhibit, or a young Tafadzo. That was unheard of. But we also have the young people are now participating, and even the recently held the Green Expo, you find that the young people are also articulating and addressing climate change, which was organized by Zimbabwe Sunshine Group. Like Helen was saying, it's a youth association. But however, we are saying to our development partners, they can also keep on complementing government efforts by even strengthening at grassroots level. Like what the president is always saying, leave no one behind, leave no place behind. So we really need to partake that and ensure that everyone is participating at every level.
I think it's also quite critical that, all these innovations are also incubated accordingly. The intergenerational, we give them the experience that it could be corporates or it could be the more experienced people, help them in order to perfect their innovations. Thanks for that memory. Maybe, Lawrence, are you equally as excited when it comes to the issue of innovation and as well as, technology as an opportunity for addressing some of the gaps that are there in youth development?
Well, we are definitely, the present and the future, we've seen how disruptive technology has been. I'm sure we all understand, even some of the richest, if it's a yardstick to measure, it's based on, I think, on technology. A few weeks ago, the richest person, even beyond Elon Musk, I think because of just YouTube followers, he got rich with that. So technology definitely is really exciting. It breaks down barriers. If you are able to access the technology itself, we've seen, I've mentioned earlier on the issue with COVID, where some did not have access, to an internet accessing device, or even each internet, the price is limiting, but there is a lot of potential for technology to do that, breaking barriers. I think it's going to leapfrog development if it's harnessed properly to the benefit of the youth. Yeah.
Helen, I know you did mention the issue of social norms, and as Lawrence is talking there, I'm thinking about the effects of technology and what it has done also to parenting, and the risks that are involved also with exposure to technology. Any pointers that you can give us in as far as the impact of technology in the risks that the youths are facing right now in as far as sexual and reproductive health is concerned?
Thank you very much. I was also thinking that I was talking about social norms, and now there's this social media, and now people are socializing on the social media. So there are also norms. So these social norms which we were experiencing in our communities as we're interacting as human beings, we are also seeing some norms on the social media, where there's also cyberbullying. There are also issues of sexual harassment on the social media. So we also need to be on guard, so that we don't see our young girls also being violated their rights because of the use of social media. And as Plan International, we've got a project where girls are leading, amplifying girls' voices on social media, where they are having discussions, podcasts, on issues to do with sexual gender violence, sexual harassment, issues of access. So also need to normalize the issue of, normalize the use of social media, but we safeguarding a violation of rights of both children and adolescents, because there are a lot of things happening. The social media being taken advantage. You've seen some of the socialites leading. Sometimes, like even the issue of drug abuse, the way the social media is being, sometimes we can see it promoting, but that's not the reason why we should be using the social media, the technology, to enhance our innovation, but guarding against like abusing it, like how it can also lead to drug abuse, issues of sexual harassment. So I think those are some of the things which we wouldn't want to normalize on social media, like what like what happened in the communities where child marriages were being normalized. So just guarding against normalizing some of the harmful practices on social media.
All right, many thanks for that. Blessing, I'll come to you. I just want Memory to lead us on the way forward, going forward. What needs to be implemented, in order to achieve a conducive world for all ages, especially for our youths?
Okay, thank you, Blessing. Before I answer that, I really want to add on to what Helen was saying earlier on. Remember, we also have the Empower Bank, which is a youth bank for young people. That's our bank. So you find that the Empower Bank really put on certain measures to be able to accommodate the young people. So for me, I'm calling to the young people out there to go and first the Empower Bank with their projects, so that they can be funded, especially on the economic part, so that they can also show their full potential. The money is there at Empower Bank.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a call to action to the youths
yes,
out
call
there.
to action, yes. Then coming to today's discussion, or for our International Youth Day, the Intergenerational Solidarity, on the way forward, I'm calling upon all the development partners out there to complement government efforts, and also for us to come up with mechanisms which strengthen the young people. The focus and thrust should be on the young people, since we are now fully aware that we have the youthful population. So we should come together, hand in glove, as I said earlier on, that we should all harness the youth demographic dividend, so that we leverage on their potential. Furthermore, I want to add on to what Blessing was saying from UNFPA side, where we are saying now that Blessing, we have a youthful population, we are also lobbying that more resources can be channeled, because if we equip and empower the young people, and they'll be able to do more. They can excel. So I'm lobbying that you should keep on supporting the Zimbabwean government, and especially the Zimbabwe Youth Council. I know you have channeled more resources to us for our development, but we are also saying today you really need to add, considering our youthful population. Then concerning the different age groups of the young people, where we have the different categories, I know from the African Youth Charter, it's up to 35. The National Youth Policy of Zimbabwe, it's up to 35. and also from the UN side up to 24. So we are saying now we really need to come up with viable programs which are specific. I like when you alluded to evidence-based programming. Evidence-based programming is really critical, but we are saying to our partners, let's have the evidence on board and let's discuss with the principals and all the government departments which matters most, especially those we dealing with young people. We have the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, that's our cohort. The Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, that's our cohort. And specifically the Minister of Youth Direct. So we are saying if we channel more resources, we'll be complementing government efforts. Then by end of day, we are able to do a cross-check of what we have achieved, like what Lawrence was trying to allude to earlier on. We really need to say by end of day, just like as we are doing on the National Youth Policy Tracking Group, we want to say by end of day, in terms of policy, the progress which you have made as government, starting from today. We don't want, like what you're saying, we don't want to leave the young people behind. We need to really involve them. So how much are we are involving them? So we are saying as young people, they should be given more spaces. How do we give them more spaces? Like what Helen was saying, let's strengthen their capacities by supporting them to form their youth associations, their youth organizations, so that they formalize. The Youth Council, we are here at Zimbabwe Youth Council, we are having a registration and formalization of businesses and also registration of youth associations. So we are saying UNFPA should come on board, should support, just like what Helen was saying, so that we also don't leave the rule of folk behind. We really need to take them on board.
All the marginalized groups are also included in the efforts. Thank you so much. Blessing, going forward, what needs to be implemented, to achieve a conducive world, especially for our youth right here in Zimbabwe?
Thanks, Blessing. I think it's quite difficult. You are asking me that question after the mother has spoken. We are all here because we are supporting Ministry of Youth. And I think thanks to memory, that was quite clear in terms of the opportunities for us to come together to collaborate and support the vision that the government is having. And I think why we are gathered here as we celebrate the International Youth Day, specifically in Zimbabwe, we wanted to say that vision that the government has shared, Vision 2030, the National Development Strategy, those ones, they should reach fruition. We should realize their implementation and the benefits that can come thereof. But I also add to say, when we are celebrating the International Youth Day, we are talking about creating a world for all ages. And for us, I think here gathered is creating a world for the youth. I think one area that we definitely need to support is what are the key issues that are coming from youth for them to say we are now in a good world. And I think some of the critical issues are the ones that we have been discussing here. Issues around health, issues around education, issues around economic opportunities and their well-being. So if we are to target all the investments in those critical areas, I think at the end of the day, we are gravitating towards achieving the full potential of the young people, as well as supporting them to live in that world that we are trying to create. And I think we also need to, going forward, we also need to create more of these spaces, the intergenerational solidarity. We need to bring the older generation, having an interface with the younger generation, because the younger generation has a lot to learn from the older generation. And in learning, they can also revise some of the mistakes and make their own lives better. So I think let's emphasize more on those intergenerational interfaces, engagements in terms of policy, in terms of programming. I think it will help us in a number of ways in Zimbabwe as we are looking forward to supporting the young people.
Right, I see we've got just under 5 minutes left for us to wrap up. So maybe I'll ask you to give your closing contributions, maybe in just over a minute each. I'll start with Helen.
Oh, thank you. Like representing girls, I think we have got an opportunity as Zimbabwe for this intergenerational solidarity. We have got a youthful population, so we need to support them to learn through education. And through the coordination of different ministries, the education ministry need to be supported so that girls go to school, everyone goes to school. So we need to invest in these young, harnessing demographic dividends. We can do it through investing in young people, through their education, so that they learn. If they learn, they'll be able to lead us and participate in different development platforms. And also, there's also a need to protect them from violence and discrimination. We need to have laws and policies that protect young people and adolescents so that they can be able to thrive in this environment. I think that will be my closing words.
That will also help them in being confident, obviously. Lawrence.
Thank you, Blessing. For me, when you ask, Zig Ziglar's quotation came to mind where he says, motivation does not last, just like bathing. That's why we recommend it every day. So I'm thinking this is the International Youth Panel Day discussion. We've talked about these issues. We've discussed these issues. Let it not be the end for today. Encouraging. Thank you to ZTN for giving this space as well. Maybe to even the other colleagues there in the media to amplify these issues, to continue to take them forward, even after this day. So that is one thing that I may just want to flag out. And also maybe continuous investments in what we have. There's a lot of opportunities which are existing in the context, like, you know, the vocational training centers for the youths who are out of school who can benefit. There's so much that can be done in those institutions. So those are some of the issues we need to look at. Thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you, Lawrence. Memory? Maybe just your parting shot in a minute.
Oh, thank you very much, Blessing. I'm very happy and I'm very proud that we are commemorating the International Youth Day. And this is the beginning of a long life marriage. And we should keep up the good work as we continue to harness the youth demographic dividend. And as Zimbabwe Youth Council, we are in pursuit of youth empowerment and participation. And we want our youth to be seen and be heard, so that we'll be able to fulfill our National Development Strategy 1 and Vision 2030. Halala, my youth, halala.
Halala. And lastly, Blessing. Yeah, just your parting shot very quickly.
Thank you so much, Blessing. You know, in Zimbabwe, there is one regional document that has been signed by the 4 ministers that are critical to the discussion that we are having, the East and Southern Africa Inter-Ministerial Commitment on the health, education and well-being of young people. I think I call upon the government to draw us together as the development partners, UN agencies and CSOs towards coordinating our efforts to ensure implementation of that commitment, because within that commitment there are issues around the health, the education, the economic opportunities and the well-being of young people. So it's quite critical that is being implemented and is being prioritized. And once again, happy International Youth Day to the young people of Zimbabwe out there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It leaves me to thank my panelists for today. Mr. Lawrence Musa Lewis, Senior Regional Programs Officer with the Embassy of Switzerland. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Blessing Nyagumbo, Program Specialist Adolescents and Youth, that's United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. Thanks so much. Ms. Marian Helen Machimbirike, passionate about sexual and reproductive health and the rights of the women and the girls, thematic lead with the Plan International Zimbabwe. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you. And Miss Marianne Helen, Memory Kanyati is also with us here, Administrative Officer with the Ministry of Youth, Arts, Sports and Culture, and the Provincial Manager, Harare Metropolitan Province. She is also with the Zimbabwe Youth Council. Thank you so much for giving us your insights on behalf of government. This has been the program International Youth Day commemorations, proudly brought to you by ZTN Prime in partnership with the UNFPA. UK, and of course our partners, the British government, the Irish government, the Swiss government, the Chinese and Japanese government, the European Union, the World Bank and USAID, amongst other partners that they work with in their quest to improve the lives of the youths. And we do owe it to posterity, and more than half the global population is of people aged 30 or less. So surely the future of this world is in the hands of the youths. Let's make them reach their potential and be as effective as they can be. You and me, we have a role to play. My name is Blessing. It has been an absolute pleasure. Good evening. Good afternoon.